Okay, it's recording now.
All
So,
right.
Pastor Hal, thanks for calling in, and we've been trying to go. We've been doing phone tag for a while. We talked a while back, and I appreciate you calling. And maybe this is the time to maybe explain a little bit of your life. You have a pretty amazing life experience that I think you should share, and
Okay,
then
Albert.
explain, and then we can like go into the geopolitics and what's going on with this virus
Okay.
and stuff. So if you
Okay.
can explain yourself to the
Oh yeah.
audience.
Well, I'm Pastor William Hale. I'm from Long Branch, New Jersey. Actually, a transplant. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Back in 1964, and 1984, I joined the Marine Corps, and I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and I was a part of a secret security force company. Their high ordnance material, which are weapons, different types of weapons. And so I did that, and I learned a lot, and I remember back in 1985, we went through the training, what we call guard school back in those days, and I seen the laundry list of terrorist groups back in 1985, and I was thinking to myself here recently, I said, man, I remember way back then, this is 36 years ago, and we had a laundry list of terrorists that, we think about ISIL and or whatever their crazy name is, the Hamas and the Taliban. We think they're bad, but we have terrorist groups that are right here in the United States that are horrifying. And so because we were guarding that type of high ordnance material, as they call it, we had to be aware of different groups, and we had not to keep ourselves away from that kind of thing. So, in my experience, I got to see a lot of things that I think a lot of people would not approve of, because many people have this negative thought about the United States, but I believe that our country has things going on in it that actually are there to protect us, protect us in their own personal way. Everybody may not agree with it, but that's just the way it is, And so my life has been kind of strange, and the last 4 years of my life, like I was telling you before, I spent 4 years in the Middle East as a contractor and as a government contractor. Kind of saw a lot of things there that I often wondered when, and I can't think of that football player's name now.
No, is this post 9/11 or pre 9/11?
No. This was post 9/11 when I went. I was a contractor. This was 2009 to 2013. I was in the Middle East as a contractor. And I remember the gentleman. Well, I can't think of what his name was. The football player. Anyway, he said that he was going to go back home and be a whistleblower. He made a fatal mistake in saying that because
Tillman?
he had saw
Tillman? Isn't it Tillman?
Tillman. That's
Tillman.
it, Tillman. And because there are a lot of things that people don't understand. We hear about drugs and things like that. We hear about a lot of things that are going on, but listen, these contractors, these government contractors, are moving things into this country freely that they should not be able to move in. I mean, opium comes in this country like nothing. All kinds of drugs, all kinds of illegal things that, just would blow your mind. You say, how did that get in here? How is this, why are we moving things like that? I won't lie to you. I thought MK Ultra was a conspiracy theory, till I found out that actually that they packed that stuff up. Now this is when I was in Hawaii. I'm sorry, so I gotta tell you where I was at that time. I was in Hawaii when I talked with the soldiers. They said, we know all about MK Ultra. We packed up all the equipment for that. For that, and they said we know all about it. And we said and matter of fact, the sergeant that told me, she said, I don't think I should be telling you this, but it is true. She said, because I said I thought it was a lie. I really did, because You know what I heard say that at the beginning was Ken Holman. You've heard of Ken Holman?
No. Who's that?
Okay, anyway, he's a creationist, and he talked about it some years ago. And then I heard it, I was like, huh? I said, nobody can control the weather. And I found out that the government's been doing it for years, you know. And contractors see all this stuff. We package this stuff.
Well, there's two things going on with the government. There's the controlling of the weather, and then MK Ultra was more of the controlling of the mind.
Yes, both. And now this other ray that they have, this death ray, they have the one that can knock your heart out. You know, that's the other one that they've been.
They have a death ray they have a death ray that can knock your heart out?
They can knock your heart out with it. You know, I forget. They've been using it in Afghanistan, and I'm shocked you don't know, but you never heard that before.
No,
but
I know. I heard that they had I heard that they had these like vehicles where they could pierce your ear and like blow your eardrum.
No, they can knock your heart out because they send a signal out, and that signal will knock the rhythm off of your heart.
Damn.
And it'll kill you. And they've been
so it's like electronic. It's like that kung fu. It's like that kung fu move where if you hit the chest a certain way, you can stop the heart.
Yeah, and it'll knock your heart out.
Yeah. But it's an electronic version.
Some kind of like electronic. It knocks off because you remember, you know, because you're in the medical field. Right. You know that our heart is electric. You know, so the electric in our system, it makes our heart beat and all that stuff. You know.
Right. And well, you know what's interesting is that people that have heart disease or some sort of heart arrhythmia issue, that especially if it's tachycardia, where it's a faster rate. What happens is the muscle, because the heart's a muscle, it will actually get thicker. That the tissue there will get thicker, and as it gets thicker, the actual electrical signal will start to weaken and not be able to contract. So,
wow.
Yeah, no, that's strange. And there's some techniques.
Potassium, like when you have too much potassium in your system, it'll seize your heart up. Is it the same thing like that?
Well, sorta. I mean, it's a different mechanism. One is it's using the electron flow. The other one is that it just can't shoot the electrical signal through thick tissue. It's just the tissue's just too thick. So what happens is surgeons go in and they actually start really ablating. They basically heat the tissue and to improve the signal.
Wow!
But it's wicked stuff, and it's like it's really cutting edge. They're really cutting edge on what they're doing, because if you don't do it quite right, you could kill the person, because they're getting at least some signal with the thick tissue. But if you do it the wrong way, they won't get any signal, because you actually cut the circuit.
Right.
But it's really weird.
Dr. Cottrell, what do you think about this Kawasaki disease that these kids? There was like 64 kids in New York that wound up having this. They say it's not COVID, or it's a symptomatic of COVID. But now it's these children's organs are starting to shut down, and 2 children died. I know.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
Yeah, this came out in the news just recently. I got to research it a little bit more. There is something going on with younger people getting different manifestations of COVID-19. I've been kind of focused on the peripheral nervous system disorders lately. The discoloring of the skin, the tingling sensation. These all remind me of Guillain-Barré syndrome.
I've heard of that before.
The GBS, so like GBS, but there's a whole slew of different peripheral nervous system disorders that what happens is you build up an antibody, and the antibody starts attacking your myelin sheath in your peripheral nervous system. So it's very possible that we are developing these peripheral nervous system disorders. But with Kawasaki, or Kawasaki is how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
I haven't really dived into, what's going on with
what that whole thing is about. Now let me jump on this real quick. I know we're jumping on a lot of different things. Now this Smithfield and all these meat factories, that's where I got the issue. That's my biggest issue right there. Okay, how in the world? Now if you know anything about South Dakota makes Petticoat Junction and Green Acres look like a thriving metropolis. I mean, come on. I mean, that's the wilderness out there, man. I mean, it's moose out there and, bears and, I mean, wolves and stuff like that. I mean, that place is like so oaky. I mean, good grief. That is truly the wilderness out there. And I'm thinking, how in the devil did 500 workers all of a sudden get corona way out there in South Dakota? I'm just mystified. And that's where I feel like that aerosol thing is going on. That somehow or another.
Yeah, but the question is like when we say aerosoled, usually when you do that, it doesn't move that far. If it's aerosoled, I mean, it's not going to go like miles. It's maybe go.
Right, I know.
It's measured in feet, not miles. So I don't know about there must have been some sort of patient zero there. But the Kawasaki disease, this is more vascular. So it's almost as if it's the autoimmune system is attacking the vascular system. Similar in a way, on how the immune system may be attacking the peripheral nervous system. So
I was talking to what's her name? My nurse practitioner, and she told me that the hospital here in New Jersey, that's Jersey Shore, right, that's down here in Monmouth County where I live at. She said that the place looks like Chernobyl. She said because what's happening, the disease is actually just destroying people's organs. So is that what coronavirus does? It just attacks the virus attacks your organs and shuts them down.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, early on, I was saying that you're going to have, not only are you having the pulmonary problem, it's also attacking kidneys and heart. There's a lot of cells that have that ACE2 receptor, so whatever is infected and those cells start to have dysfunction, you're going to have inflammation and disease within that organ. Then you'll have the sepsis problem where you just get the cytokine storm and you just have an overrun of infection, and in sepsis you have organ failure. Yeah.
You're done. Yeah. And I know I lost two friends, like that just recent, and he went in for a respiratory problem because he had asthma, but then when he got there to the hospital, he wound up dying, and that same day he died. It was on my birthday, March 31st, and four of the rabbis died that day too, and it was pretty bad, because Lakewood, I live close to Lakewood, New Jersey, and that's a real big Hasidic area there, an Orthodox Jewish town, big time. I don't know if you've ever
My brother's an Orthodox Jew, and he didn't study at Lakewood. He actually studied in Israel, but he has tons and tons of friends that went to Lakewood for their studies, or have neighbors who have kids over in Lakewood. And there was an incident where a father went to go pick up his son from Lakewood Yeshiva, and brought the son back to Michigan. My brother lives in Oak Park, so he brought the son back to Oak Park, and the son didn't seem to have symptoms, but the father ended up getting symptoms of and contracted COVID-19, and brought it to the community. The community started getting sick.
Oh my God! So this is the thing I'm saying. In my mind, just like you said, the homology is HIV, SARS, and Corona supercharged.
Right.
And I believe that 100% because being a military man, I know that they hate us. The Chinese hate us. And I've heard too many people saying, even I heard Michael Savage say this, that why would the Chinese do that? But I don't believe the Chinese care anything about the debt. that they haven't
Well,
learned.
I'll tell
They
you
don't
what.
care.
I think the Chinese are making a move in the Pacific Ocean. They wanted to have a
Yeah.
weapons program to weaken us, so they can, extend their military projection on the island chains. And
Yeah.
they're doing a
I believe
hegemonic
they're
power.
trying to take over
Yeah.
the Philippines and several other places.
Yeah, they want to take over that first chain of islands, and
Yeah.
and that means pushing the U.S. military out of that zone. And there's a lot of traffic that goes through there for goods and services, and then they're trying to project into North Africa and through the Middle East with that One Belt Road.
They've been in Africa since way back in the '60s and '70s. They were back. They were in Africa. I'm trying to think. They were in Zimbabwe. It's a couple other places too. I forget where they were, and they actually been thrown out of some of those places because I remember I think it was Ghana. The president of Ghana went to a Chinese food restaurant and they told him they wouldn't serve him because he was black, and he threw one of them out of the country. I laughed. I said, "These people are crazy." I said, you can't be racist in their country. That's their country, I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. I never could understand that, I can't understand racism like Dr. Cottrell. Really, I can't. Because, being a person that's of mixed race, I don't understand how you can hate another man or another woman when you realize that, and you being in the medical field, all men and all women are the same. We're the same genetic makeup. There's no, I don't believe in evolution. I don't know if you do, but I don't. I believe Darwin's theories are all lies.
Well, I'm just so everyone knows that I am an evolutionist. I do believe. I wouldn't say that I believe it because it's not a religion. It's just that the scientific facts seem to suggest, I think, that there is an evolutionary process. With that said, I believe the creation story is an evolutionary story.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because it's talking, so it's talking about, God created certain things on certain days. Well, he created certain things on certain days. That shows an evolutionary process. He didn't create man first. He didn't create the birds before the earth. I mean, there had to be a certain evolutionary process to get to where we are. So that's one layer of understanding. And one day just means a completion of a cycle. You don't know what one day is. One day could be millions of years or billions of years. We don't know. We assume
the scripture in the New Testament says this. It says a day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day with the Lord. That's why we believe it could be 1,000 years. It could be.
Right. That's where the calculation of that the universe is only 6,000 years old or 7,000 years old, something like that.
Yes, there's a creationist. I believe that too. I believe the Earth is only 6,000, but now you may believe the Earth is billions of years old.
Yeah, there's Kabbalistic texts that would say that one day is 1,000 years, but that each day has 10 units in it, and each unit is 1,000. So you have.
Oh, I see where you're coming from.
So,
yes.
And then within that there are other 10 units within the 10 units. So it's like a Russian doll. The one day.
Yes, I know.
The one
I know,
day.
Like the Fabergé egg. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So the Kabbalists actually believe that the universe is 13.7 billion years. They believe that they believe a much older universe.
Yeah, much older Earth.
But if you look at the surface understanding of one day, then it seems that it took 7 days to create the universe. If you look at the second layer, then it's 7,000. But there are layers within layers that get you to the creation story. Because the way the Sephirot works is that you have 10 units, but there are 10 within a 10. And there's 5 layers of that. So you have like you have. It's hard to describe it, but it's the
no,
idea. It's the idea.
It gets to be teeny. Yeah.
Right. It gets the idea.
Have you ever heard of Steve Quayle? Have you
Yeah,
listened to Steve Quayle?
a little bit.
Yeah, he said, because I know he comes on, he's got some theories that are kind of, they're way out there to me. I listen. I always listen. This is the thing I do. I'm a person that listen, and then I put it together. And I'm sure you're like that too. You're an analyst, You analyze things, and you see what's true, and you see what's false. And I'm sure you're a man of reason, and I mean we can talk, as two human beings without, we can disagree without being disagreeable. You know what I mean? Like, some people can really get violent if you don't agree with them, you don't believe what they believe. Oh, I wanted to ask you one thing too. This thing with these bees, how the heck did these bees get from Japan to here? These killer hornets, not bees, but hornets. That's another thing I'm just wondering about. That's just mystifying me.
I don't know. I'm killer bees. Is this recent?
You need to hear about the hornets? Yeah. They said they're in Washington State and in that part of Canada, right over Washington State.
He must have been in some cargo ship.
Because I'm saying to myself, how could those, and what's happening, these hornets attack the honeybee hives and kill all the honeybees.
Yeah.
They destroy honeybee hives, and but their sting is so dangerous, they said.
Well, are they destroying the hive, or are they destroying the queen?
They're destroying the whole hive. They're killing all of the workers, and I guess they're killing the queens too. They're destroying because now, I mean, they're destroying the hive so that there's no honey.
Mm-hmm.
They're killing all of them. And
are they taking the honey?
Huh?
Are they taking the honey? I'm
not sure what they're doing with it. That's what they didn't. The news didn't go into it. It just came on ABC News the other day, and I looked on it online, and I just to see what they were about, because they were talking about how dangerous they really are. These hornets, they're pretty big hornets too. They're bigger than the average hornet. I have to tell you, I used to work for the electric company for 13 and a half years here in New Jersey, and man, I've seen some hornet nests, brother, that it will bring fear to your heart. I'm serious. And to know that to see a hornet that's twice as big as the hornets that I've seen in my lifetime, that's scary stuff. They said that's how bad they are, and they're dangerous. They said their sting could actually kill you. And you need to look into that one. That's the one you need to look into. They're called the Japanese, what do they call them? Killer hornets? Or something like that. They got some kind of strange name. But I'm just saying, the reason why I'm saying that, because with COVID and with that coming on, I'm just saying to myself, what else is getting ready to strike this country? Because, I mean, so many things that are going on, and so many things that are underlined. We got the deep underground military bases, which I know are true. It's true. But the depth of it, I'm not sure about,
Well, what's your take on why those things are there? Those do you think that there are nuclear fallout shelters, or do you think that it's for something much bigger?
I think it's for something much bigger. I believe it also is too, because there are people who gave testimony, said they've driven through them with tractor trailers all the way through them.
No, I think they do exist, but why do you think they exist?
Well, first thing, the elite. Now, I'm going to go all the way back to where it starts from the Rothschilds. All the Rothschilds, and they were the ones who started, all of this big thing. See, now I'm going to get to some conspiracy stuff you may not understand. Catholicism, the Rothschilds, and the deep state, those guys, the shadow government. I mean, not the deep state, the shadow government. You don't know who's who with that.
Well, how would you
really
just so we understand the definitions here? I always thought deep state and shadow government were the same thing. Are they not? Or
no,
what's the difference?
The deep state are like these unelected people. Okay, let me go back. Jimmy Carter started the the senior executive branch. The senior executive branch are unelected people who've been sitting in Washington, D.C., getting up to a salary and making all kinds of serious decisions. You know, you can look it up and find out. The senior executive, there's a guy named Phil McConnell. His sister was one of the heavy hitters in the senior executive, and she did some things that you'd have to go back. I don't want y'all to explain how he explained it. It's a lot, you know. But anyway, it's something dealing with Barack Obama and his whole legacy, so-called, you know. And anyway, you know, that's what I call the deep state. Those people who are unelected, who have power in Washington, D.C., you know, who have power that they shouldn't have because they're not elected officials. Mm-hmm. Now, the shadow government is a different group of people altogether. These are the elitists, you know. These are the people who you don't think are nothing, but they are, you know.
Okay.
I think that, what's his name, Bill Gates is a part of it, somewhat. He's a lower person in it. He's not the, you know, even though he has billions of dollars, there are people who are much higher than him, much more power than him.
So the shadow government is really like the smoky room, you know, the men in the smoky room.
Yeah, the guys who you don't know who they are. You don't really know, but I know the Rothschilds is one of them. Because remember, when the Flight 370, when it came up missing, you know, what's the name of that group? Anonymous. They came up with a good reason why it all happened.
Oh wait, is that the Malaysia? Is that the Malaysia one?
Yeah, that's the Malaysia flight from Malaysia, from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Yeah.
So what was Anonymous?
That's right.
What was Anonymous's thought on
that? You know, their take on it was this. There was a group called out of Texas. It was called. They made this anti-radar. They had a patent on this anti-radar thing where a plane could come up, you know, like a fighter jet could come and nobody could detect it. It was an anti-radar system that they had set up, and I can't think of the name of the group. The name of the group was who were they? Oh God, they were out of Texas. I can't think of the name of them. You'd have to go back and look at that anonymous, and look at that video. And the 13 men, the 13 Chinese men, the 13 Chinese engineers actually had a patent. And if they were to die, then the full patent would have went to the company that they worked for. And Rothschilds had a big interest in that company, and they said that's the reason why that plane came up missing. They said the plane actually there was a remote control something in the plane that Boeing makes. It's a remote control where they took over the flight. The flight started out going to Beijing. It wound up going backwards to what's the name of that little island? Diego Garcia, and that's the only place they could have taken it, because they never found anything of that plane. Look, we ain't talking about Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart could have died out there in the ocean, because that was in 1930. That was in the 1930s. You know that was a way different thing altogether. But in 2014, there's no way in God's green earth that a 747 just disappears with 240 some odd people on it, you know, and nobody found a trace of nothing.
I always thought it was very suspicious. Very suspicious. Another plane that I find very suspicious is that Iranian airliner that was blown out of the sky recently.
Oh yeah.
You know.
That one that was leaving Iraq, going into Iran. Yes.
The one that was leaving Iran. I thought what was happening is that they were lobbing the missiles into Iraq. And the plane took off from Iran to go to Europe, and the Iranians shot down their own plane, supposedly.
I think so too. I always thought that's what they did too, because that was. But I don't think.
But I don't know
Flight
what.
370 was shot down.
No. But
I
I just
believe
said
it landed. I believe
right.
they took. But see, the thing of it is, what did they do with all those bodies? Did they cremate all those people? How did they cremate all of them? You know, what did they do with all their credit cards, their cell phones, all of those things, their diamonds, their jewelry, all their identification?
Wait.
I mean,
So the Malaysian, you think
up.
so you think the Malaysian one was not that did not go down? You think that was landed?
No, I believe it automatically landed. That's why I said you got to listen to Bill McConnell, what he said, how it landed. He agreed with.
See, I figured I figured it was blown out of the sky by a bomb.
I don't think so because there still would be remnants of it. You know, if you know anything about Boeing and now I was a kid growing up in St. Louis, so I know a lot about. It was called McDonnell Douglas back in those days, but now it's called Boeing. And you know, all of that material that they use, some of that stuff floats, and it would float forever. It'd be like trash in the ocean. You know, if it blew up like that flight that left JFK and blew up in when it was flying. I can't remember. That was during Bill Clinton's time. They said somebody took a Stinger missile and hit it from a certain spot right there in New York when it took off. It was supposed to be going to France. You may not remember. That was quite a few years ago.
Oh, this is the Libyan one, wasn't it?
That one, but there was all kind of debris. There should be some debris. That's my point. Yeah. There should be some kind of debris. If it was blown up, it should have been debris. I believe it did land. They took all those dead people off. Somehow or another, they had some kind of poison that they shot into that air system on that plane and knocked everybody out, or they knocked them out somehow with the pressure, the air pressure, you know, and it evidently killed them, you know, because there was no oxygen. It deprived them of oxygen somehow, and they had to, because that anti-radar was very important to somebody like Rothschild, because if he can get a fleet of airplanes that could attack a country and nobody could detect it, he can be one of the most dangerous people in the world, you know. And that's what I'm saying. And the Chinese, the Americans, the Europeans, I believe everybody would want to have that, you know, that system, you know, to be able to surprise their enemies. I mean, my goodness, you know. But that's another rabbit hole, actually. But anyway, back to COVID-19. I just feel like I told you initially that I felt like it was 3 strains. You were talking. You spoke of 2. I spoke of there was a 3rd one, and I think it's one more deadlier because of the initial deaths where people come down with COVID and they're dead within a day, 2 days, 3 days, and they just automatically die. And I remember you talked about that there was something else you thought that was mixed up in it that you couldn't put your finger on. And I always thought that, and in my heart, I feel like when you said it was a neurotoxin, that's the word you used, a neurotoxin. And I felt like, wait a minute, a neurotoxin, only spiders and snakes have neurotoxins. Right. And I thought that the 2 deadliest neurotoxins were from the black widow and from the black mamba. And I thought to myself, did they mix that in there? Could that actually... Have you been looking at any autopsy records or anything like that?
Well, I've had some people send me information about autopsies, but they were related to red blood cells and they were related to T cells. And
so it really wasn't the full autopsy based on the coronavirus, I see.
And it was related to SARS-CoV-2.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, so SARS-CoV-2 is infecting not only the lungs and all the other different organs, but it's infecting the red blood cells and the white blood cells, the T cells. Mm-hmm. And there's, you know, neurological infection. Now, some of that neurological infection is peripheral nervous system, while the other is central nervous system. So this thing definitely was designed. There's no doubt about it. It wouldn't surprise me. There's more than just that HIV homology in that thing. You know,
could it be a venom, a spider venom, or snake venom mixed into that?
Well, I don't think there's
You don't
enough
think
room.
so?
I don't think there's enough room in the genome to create the toxin. But it's possible though. I mean,
because the infant
HIV has a toxin that it creates. So
Right,
so
right, I know.
you know, is it possible there's something else in there that's causing some sort of toxic effect? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
The genome is a decent size. 30,000. You can do a lot of stuff with 30,000 nucleotides.
right.
But I don't. People are saying, "Oh, it's jam packed with this and that and this and that," and I'm like going, "Well,
But
maybe,
it
but
gets
I don't
too
think
much.
it. Yeah, I think it's just you're pounding. You're putting 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. I don't think there's enough room. I just don't.
I can understand that, but I'm just saying because the instant deaths are scary. The scary part about it, because right here in Freehold, his family went to New York to a birthday party or something. He came home and died. I mean, come on. I mean, 4 people in one family, a family of 7. The other 3 went to were in critical condition. I don't even know if they died, but I know
I don't think it's a
relatives.
I don't think it's a. Definitely it happened. But the thing is that I don't think that it's a neurotoxin
Okay.
that the virus is producing, but it may attack the neurons and make it seem like it's a neurotoxin. Because what does the neurotoxin do? I mean, it's affecting the neurons, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, if the virus is affecting the neurons and they're going down, then it has the same effect as a neurotoxin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's creating a neurotoxic chemical.
Yeah. Because it's shutting down people's organs, and because like a neurotoxin, like if you get bit by a cobra, it'll just start shutting everything down.
Right. Right.
Because I'm just saying, it just.
But the genome in those cells that are producing that venom. I mean, that's a lot. You're talking about a much larger genome than a viral genome. So I don't think that the virus has that ability, but it's possible. I mean, there may be something in that genome that actually creates a neurotoxin.
That I'm talking about. It seems so deadly, because there are people that get it, and in 2 weeks they're fine, maybe a month they're fine, and then some people, I mean, man, it just takes them away from here.
More and more people are calling the show, and they're saying that they had it in November.
Mm-hmm.
That they swear that they had like a double wave, more severe flu-like symptom in November in the United States.
Because it's so many things involved with this. I have a problem with the new so-called I forget what they call it, Operation something for this new vaccine that they're supposed to be bringing out. I'm a little leery about that.
Oh yeah,
I really am. I'm quite leery about that because I don't trust this Fauci guy. He seems like a snake in the grass to me. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so negative, but he just doesn't seem he doesn't seem truthful to me. He seems like he's there for his own benefit, and he's going to get something out of it if that vaccination becomes available, to everybody, and he's going to get probably millions of dollars somehow or another.
I think he is somehow tied to some sort of financial benefit, but something this big, he must be compromised somehow.
It's gotta be.
How he's compromised, I don't know, but for him to be this involved with the weapons program for so long, he's up on stage to cover up stuff, to make sure that. Make sure that people look one way while other things are going the opposite.
Because that was a big smoke screen in the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
I was sitting in my house, and I believe the Lord was speaking. The Lord was speaking to me. Now you hear Christians will say this a lot. The Lord was speaking to me, and He said, "Don't let the impeachment fool you. There's something else going on.
Oh.
they're covering something else up.
Yep.
And then soon after that, then here comes Corona.
Well,
and
everyone thought that the cover up with the whole Trump dossier thing and the impeachment.
Yeah, that was a bunch of malarkey. That's all that was. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, and they destroy one man's life. General Flynn, who's another Marine like myself, destroyed that man's life. Over what? And I'm just mystified by some of the things that have happened. And I think the president has to watch his association. He's associated himself out of fear with certain people that I think he wouldn't have done if he knew if he didn't fear. If he would just stand strong and say, listen, it is what it is. I didn't do it. He didn't do it. We can't blame him for what has happened here. He didn't have anything to do with it. From my understanding, this thing started way back at Harvard University. Somehow or another, somebody in Canada was involved with it. It got to this Wuhan laboratory.
Well, the reality of the situation, it didn't start at Harvard. It started other labs across the country.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah. It started.
This is what I heard. I'm not
sure.
No,
it didn't start at Harvard. I mean, there's more of a connection to University of North Carolina than there is to Harvard.
That's right. That's the other one. Yes, that's the other one.
But
that's the one I heard too.
But there were a lot of researchers that were involved and had laboratories, especially the early phase of this. The early phase, I think, was just for scientific purposes. I don't believe that the early phases were a weapons program. But once they realized realized what they made, then it became very obvious the benefits of a weapons program. From a military point of view.
Right. But there was a study. I'm sure it was a study. I mean, many of the disease people, they study, all of the different diseases and what could happen if this was to cross this, and all the different things that you know about a lot. I know because I listen to you sometimes. Some of the things you talk about. The different diseases and the different. You get deep into some of those things about the blood cells, and you were talking about how different things, blood goes from takes this takes this to the other part of your body. This gives you energy. I was like, oh God. Right. I was like, man, what is all this? I don't even understand it. I'm trying to sit and listen to you because I'm trying to learn. Because I know you're very versed in all those things, and then some of the people that you're discussing with, both of you guys are in that field. So I try to learn it all I can because I want to be able to be knowledgeable. So when the parishioners and the people from my church, they ask questions, I want to be able to give them a sensible answer. Because a lot of people hear it too, but they want to know. Then they'll come to me and they'll say, Pastor Hale, this and this and that, and I'll say, well, I know this much about it. And then I can also say, I'll talk to a gentleman, his name is Dr. Cottrell, and I said he knows a lot about that too, and I talk with him, about this kind of a thing. Because all of these things, to me, are coming to one thing. It is the destruction of the United States of America. That's the thing that scares me the most, Dr. Cottrell. All of this, all of these different things that are going on in America. And then like we were talking about earlier, the deep underground military bases, those, they call them the domes. Those places are, like preparation for something like a pandemic like this that will be worse, And then everybody's talking about the next wave. The next wave is going to be worse. And I'm concerned because I have a 16-year-old daughter that's in high school. My other children are grown. I have 9 children actually, and they're all grown except for one. And when these children go back to high school and back to grade school, that's not going to be any social distancing. They're kids. They're going to be in a high school, a grade school, a junior high, a kindergarten. They all touch each other and they touch everything. Oh man, it's going to be a nightmare. I just don't. I can't imagine if this thing isn't something that's not done to quail it. What's going to happen to our children? I mean, have you thought down that line?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm worried about the second wave. We're getting out of shelter in place at the end of this month in New York, hopefully. And
yeah, I know that because I mean you almost have to.
but
Because I mean,
the kids' school won't start back up until September.
September, yeah.
So
September,
the parents are
yeah.
gonna be exposed before the kids. And in theory, if the parents are exposed in the second wave, they'll be exposing their kids when they come home from work, and then the kids will be exposed before they get back to school. So the kids, if they get sick, they'll probably get sick because of their parents.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm concerned about a second wave, and we don't know what that means. I mean, we've never been
Yeah,
down
I
this
know.
road, so I mean, it's a big question mark. But we can't live in fear either.
No, we can't.
You know, we
can't.
have, you know, where it's almost like, I mean, you've been in the military. I mean, you know, you have to just do it. You know,
You have to go through it because
right.
it is what it is. I mean, you know, we can't control, you know, what has happened. It's happened already, and it's, you know, there's nothing we can do. My only concern is you know, contamination, like all that meat, you know, they're talking about, you know, and then another thing, killing all that meat, killing all that pork, killing all that beef, and then just going and burning it. Why not? I mean, everybody. I heard Mike Savage saying that why don't we be like the Chinese? The Chinese take a pork, they cut it up, and I don't eat pork. I wouldn't eat pork if you paid me in silk. You know, I'm sorry, I'm not a pork eater, but they take pork and then they cut it up and they freeze it. So I'm thinking like the same thing like those Omaha steaks. You know, you've heard of Omaha steaks before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they freeze them. I mean, that's what it seems like they should kill the animals, take them because they have such an overload of them, and take them and freeze the meat. You know, I mean, cut the steaks and all that different things and freeze the meat like they do with the Omaha steaks and put it, put it in storage because I would hate to see all those cows, all that meat, you know, get killed and then they burn it or they destroy it somehow or another. I mean,
I know
that's a waste. That's a great waste. I mean, and then people are, and then they're already, you know, rationing out meat at the different stores here in New Jersey. You know.
All right, I heard that.
Yeah,
you know, it's almost like they're trying to weaken us. They want to kill off our food supply.
That's what that. Yes, and this whole thing, it goes back to eugenics. All I'm hearing in my mind is eugenics. The Georgia Guidestones, you know, trying to bring the population down to 500 million people. Are you kidding me? Where in the devil is 6 billion people going to go? You know, they said I think they said, what is it, 7 billion people on the earth? 500. Oh my God. What do you mean? Tell me you're going to euthanize all those people? You know, just so you can have regimental control of 500 million people? Oh God, that's diabolical in my mind. Really.
I agree with you.
I mean, that is diabolical. You know, when I hear that kind of a thing, I say, oh my God, you know. But back to several other things. You know, as a contractor, I often wondered to myself, what's going on over here with Dynacor? Dynacor is a dangerous group of people, man.
Explain to the listeners, Dynacor.
Oh, Dynacor is a contractor, a government contractors, and they move a lot of things, different things. Like I'm trying to think of his name now. He was the vice president under George W. Bush Jr. I can't think of his name now. He was over a big government contract too, and I can't remember the name of the company, but all of the government contractors like Dynacor. I'm trying to think of what the names of them are. Mantech. I used to work for Mantech actually in Hawaii, and you know, there's several of this. I mean, there's many of them. They all have the different things, and you think their whole purpose was to support the military in the combat zone, Afghanistan, Iraq, you know, and they were based in Qatar, Kuwait, and basically they were supposed to support, you know, be a support system to them, like bringing goods in, you know, like bringing big things of Gatorade and and bringing big things of, all kinds of equipment that they needed, to fix their vehicles and things like that, different parts and things like that from the United States. But it turned into something different. And this is what Tillman found out, that they were bringing drugs from Afghanistan. They were doing several other things, bringing in all kinds of illegal things that are illegal in the United States to bring those things in. The contractors were being used as a double agent. Instead of them bringing things to our servicemen, they were doing a double work for the government to bring all kinds of illegal drugs and other things that they weren't supposed to be bringing into the country. I've even heard, it's scary stuff about body parts and different things of that nature. And I'm saying, well, why would we want body parts? We got all the body parts we need in the United States. But I don't know what the purpose is, what the scientific, what the reason behind it is. But the other guys were telling me, they said, man, it's a lot of strange stuff. We're moving all this stuff, and I don't understand why are we moving this stuff? Why is this stuff leaving this place? Then there was a lot of things with the oil being stolen. People, doing all kinds of stuff. Because the oil. Let me say this to you so you can know. The Kuwaiti dinar is $3.50 to one Kuwaiti dinar. This is what Donald Trump had to fit about some years ago. You can see it on the interview. Gas only costs 62 cents a gallon in Kuwait. America was putting billions of dollars into this little small country that's about as big as Rhode Island. And people were wondering why. Because the Kuwaitis would let us move anything we wanted in or out of that country. So that was one of the big things that was a big problem. I shouldn't say a big problem, but it was a big thing that a lot of contractors were feeling, a lot of them left. They started quitting because they started to see things being moved that they thought should not be moved illegally. All kinds of different things like different drugs and stuff like that, different types of drugs that were definitely illegal in our country. There was other equipment too that I'm not sure about. I'm not sure about because I don't want to say that because you can't prove it. I can't prove it because I didn't see it. I heard about it, but I didn't see it because I was there. And they were telling me there were some things that were being moved that were very strange things. That people were saying, "Wow, man, I got to leave. I can't stay here." And so guys started to quit working, and go back home to the United States. Some guys, they had enough, so they got to be too much. The hours were long. That's the first thing, and a lot of things were going on over there that that just were overwhelming to the contractors and then plus, that's when I got sick. A lot of us got sick over there too because I believe that there was some kind of chemical. Because this is where my health went down. I went over there a healthy 45-year-old guy. I'm 56 now, and that was back in 2009 when I went there. And I was about 45 years old. I came back home. I had my leg amputated, and as the years went on, I lost both my retinas detached, my kidneys failed, and just a lot of things started happening to me. Now I'm not sure if this has happened to any of my other friends because I didn't keep in contact with them. I didn't keep in contact with, so I don't know the health issues of some of my other buddies that I was out there with because we were exposed to everything out there. We were exposed to all the systems and everything that was going on out there. Some of the things I can't tell you I can tell you personally, if it was just me and you talking, I couldn't tell you on the recording because it would be kind of giving away government secrets, so I wouldn't want to do that, But also, there's a lot of things over there that Americans don't know about, that actually to protect the American interests. I'll put it to you that way. That's what's there. And so, just in case there's an attack, believe me, we're ready to thwart it at any time. But actually, that's one of the things that was really scary over there was the oil debacle, moving of all kinds of different, like I said, chemicals and different things like that, things that people thought were strange that didn't have anything to do with, with our servicemen. It had nothing to do with our servicemen. We were moving things from over there that didn't have anything to do with our servicemen. We were supposed to be supporting them. That was our whole point of being there, to support them, to make sure they got everything they needed, whether it be uniforms, whether it be equipment to fix their vehicles, like I said, food, things like that, of that nature, bringing American food, to them, shipping it from America to there, making sure that, our guys were well taken care of over there, because they really were well taken care of, believe me, they were, as far as food and different things like that, they even built, apartments over there for them, and on the bases, especially one base, the base, Arajan, which was one of the biggest bases in Kuwait, Army bases in Kuwait, it's really nice. It's like a city, actually. It's real nice, it's a real nice base. Anyhow, that's just some of the things that went on over there. It's just that's what Tillman, it took Tillman's life for that, because he saw more than I did, because he was there in Afghanistan. I never got a chance to go to Afghanistan. But all my buddies because I got sick and I had to come back to America, all my buddies who were healthy, that's what they did once everything went down in Kuwait, where they kind of cut back on the jobs. Everybody went to Afghanistan because the money was much better. We went from making like maybe $80,000, $90,000 to $125,000, $150,000 a year, with no taxes. So that was one of the benefits of being
taxes?
Over there. No.
Wow.
No. So you get to be tax free, as long as you stay for a year,
right.
So that was one of I know that a lot of people didn't know that, A lot of people didn't know the fact that the Kuwaiti dinar is $3.50 to one Kuwaiti dinar is $3.50. Their money's worth that much more than ours. I remember when I met some British guys when I was over there. Matter of fact, when I was over there, I met a lot of guys. The British Army, the British Royal Marines, the British Air Force, the guys from Saipan, what do you call them? The Australians. What else did I meet over there? The Gurkhas. Trying to think. The French Foreign Legion. Trying to think who else. Met a bunch of military guys over there from different countries. There's a lot. A lot of what they call coalition forces. I met a lot of guys over there. Had a real good time of meeting a lot of people, talking with them about a lot of different things. We did do a lot of talking. That was a good thing of being over there. And getting a chance to meet everybody. But also, like I said, some strange things that we were moving, bringing back to the United States. That and then when they get to these seaports, they're supposed to be checked, but those things aren't being checked. I had a buddy who was doing work at these seaports, and you have to have a special security clearance to be at those seaports, and they were going to check some things. And he said, and the supervisor said, no, get away from over there. Go check that other stuff over there. And so they're moving all kinds of things that would, I don't believe that anybody would approve of, or if they found out, it would be a big problem, So all the things that I was telling you about, all the chemicals and different things that they're moving back and forth, it's just, and then, they have the people not to check them, and they bring them in those big containers, you see them, we call them connexes, the military guys, we call them connexes, but the big 40-foot containers, metal containers, you see them, right?
Yeah, I lost a little bit of your audio.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
Okay.
So you were asking if I saw what? What container?
They're like 40-foot containers. They're like those metal containers. You see them sometimes. They're shipping containers, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You've probably seen them before, but you may not know what they were called. We call them connexes. They're like 40-foot, 30-foot containers, and they, sometimes, they ship them like when you ship something from China to America, They put them on those 40-foot containers, and then they open them up, and
Right.
And then
No, I've seen
they
those.
take all the stuff out of them.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, okay, that's what the military does. They ship a lot of stuff back here, and that's the thing that you have to really be leery of. Like I said, that's why I wanted to kind of know what Snowden knew about certain things, because I wanted to try to cross-reference some of the things that he talked about. But he goes into so many different things. He never really says what he knows, to me.
See, yeah, Snowden is a little weird. Snowden, there's a part of me that says, you know what? I think that he was trying to shine a light on the surveillance state, and a lot of the things that I've been talking about on the channel about how the government is just overreached its boundaries in terms of surveilling the citizens and the FISA court abuse and all this. I think he shined a light on that. But there's also something that just doesn't seem right about him. That it's almost like there's a part, it's like almost like he's like 60%. I'll call 60% patriot, but 40% traitor. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's just something about him it doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Now,
it doesn't seem right at all.
Now, if you look at like Julian Assange, I think he's a true journalist trying to shed light of abuses of all different governments, and he's paid the price. He's paid the price. You don't see Snowden paying the price.
He got that information from that transgender person, didn't he? Didn't he get all that information?
Oh, Manning.
Yeah. Chelsea Manning.
What was his first? What was his original name?
Oh, God. I can't think of what his name was.
Eric Manning?
Something. I just knew about it, Chelsea, because that's the big thing that they made a big thing. I thought that was outrageous. The whole setup of that. I'm just like, come on, dude. First thing, I don't understand how they get these low-level people and give them all of this access to all of that top secret stuff. When I was in the military.
And how could you get it on a thumb drive? How could you get it on a thumb drive and send it to someone?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's just like
there was no way in a private is a low-level person. You have to at least be a sergeant, a staff sergeant. You had to prove yourself. You had to be in the military at least 4 to 8 years before they even put you in a position like that. In the Marine Corps, they would never put you in a position like that. But seem like the Army put all these young guys, and this is what they base it on. You got a good credit score. Who cares? Your credit score has nothing to do. Nobody's gonna trade information with the Russians for the Russians to pay us. I wouldn't give the Russians a half a wink.
Yeah, but the thing the thing is that the Russians are smart enough to go and try to compromise someone that has a good credit score. To give them secrets if they know that it's if the filter is just a bad credit score, just don't try to recruit people that have bad credit scores. Just if I was a Russian, I'd just recruit people that had really good credit scores.
It's right, because that's the people who they give it all this high access to. You don't give access to somebody who's only been in the Army for 2 years, 3 years, and then now he gets pardoned because he's a transgender. Now listen, you have a right to be whatever you want to be. God has given every human being on this earth, and I know you might believe, I'm sure you believe this, free will. You have free will to do whatever you want to do. I don't agree with transgenderism or homosexual, lesbian. I don't agree with any of that at all. But you have a free will to do as you want to do. I would not interfere with your life that you want to do. I just don't want you to interfere with my life and try to teach my children something that I've taught them against. That's all. I just say I don't believe it's right to teach it at school, saying it's all right to have an alternate lifestyle. I said no. I said if somebody individual wants to have an alternate lifestyle, that's their personal business. But when you start teaching it as if it's gospel, then I have a problem with it. That's what my problem begins with that type of thing. That's why now as a Christian, I am very conservative, very strict. When it comes to stuff like that. I'm a Bible believing Christian. I really believe the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, that it's the truth, So that's where I stand with that type of a thing. But be that as it may, I just feel that you should never give anybody who hasn't proven themselves the type of access to top secret information. And I believe America has found itself in a tizzy by allowing these people to get this kind of information. Because a lot of young people are radicalized in a way, because the way they think. They, if you talk to a 25 or a kid that's between 20 and 25 years old, all they ever talk about is the zombie apocalypse. I said, what the heck is that? I had to ask my children what that was. I said, it doesn't even make any sense. It sounds like a movie,
Well, the zombie, the zombie apocalypse. A lot of people were watching this show called Walking Dead, or what happens is that they're infected by a virus, and the dead can't die. They become undead.
Right, that's what you're saying.
So they're not alive, but they're not dead. They're just kind of like, the body still is moving, but they don't have a soul. So.
Right.
So it's kind of like almost a poetic. It's almost like a poetic way of talking about society in general. People are just walking around, going to not anymore because no one's going to work. But before Wuhan, people were just mindlessly going to work and mindlessly existing and shopping and all this. So it was like a horror film or a horror TV series that was kind of that was like a social commentary of the way we live every day. We live like zombies in a way.
So like a hive mentality. You're saying we're just worker bees, and then that's all we do is just work, and then and we don't have any other thing to do but just to work. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, sort of. But these shows, they go all the way back to the 1960s when Dawn of the Dead came out, the movie.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous. I've seen that. Oh god.
But they have a lot. There's a lot.
And all those ones.
Yeah. It falls in that whole horror genre, but it was kind of like a horror, almost like a horror comedy. I view it as more of a comedy.
It was hilarious to me. I just laughed.
Yeah.
I thought it was stupid.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that watch it.
Yeah, because I'm just the type of person, let me say this to you, you're going to think I'm crazy. Because I was 11 years old.
I lost your audio a little bit.
Okay, I was saying, since 11 years old, I've been in the funeral business. So I've always been around the funeral business. My brother-in-law was a funeral director, and I've always, two of my good friends are funeral directors. I actually worked for one of them. But we're really both of them, and so I've been around that, and I've seen people, I brought dead people, put them on the table, and they got embalmed, and I didn't know nobody's getting up, so that kind of doesn't make any sense.
The first time you did that, what did you think? I mean, was it scary?
I was a little nervous because I was like, whoa, this guy's dead, you look at him and you sit there and you're thinking to yourself, is this guy going to get up? And you think about it, and then you keep you will come back twice or three times, and you have to come back and put another body there, and you see the same guy still laying there and he hasn't moved, so you figure, yep, he's dead. And you say, and after a while, and once you see an embalming, you're a medical guy. I don't know if you've ever seen an embalming. But once you see an embalming, you know that's the end, man.
Right.
So because when they put those hookups and put one into the artery and the other into the carotid and to the jugular,
mm-hmm.
and when they start pumping all that, that mixture of that formaldehyde and lanolin and all that other different stuff they use, it's like 4 or 5 different chemicals they mix with the formaldehyde, and they put that in, and it pushes the blood out, and the blood goes, just down the drain. And when you see that, then you know that person is.
Well, like when they're taking the blood out, where does it really go down the drain, or does it go into?
Yeah, it just goes down the drain because the hookup they have the.
But where? I mean, it doesn't go into a bio container and someone picks it up.
No. It just goes straight down the drain. The blood goes down the drain.
Oh, wow.
You know, goes right into the sink.
Holy
Or
shit.
or it's a stool. Some people have a stool at the end of it. You know, it goes right into that because the machine actually pushes the embalming solution goes in, it pushes the blood out, and the blood just goes straight down the drain. You know.
Oh, I thought I thought there would be like some sort of regulation that it had to be in a container and it had to be because let's say someone dies from COVID-19.
Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, my buddy is here in
Are they
Jersey,
doing embalmings of COVID-19, or are they doing?
Yeah, they're embalming them, and what they're doing to disinfect them, they're disinfecting them with bleach. You know,
Damn.
they spraying them down with bleach and disinfecting the skin, the outer skin.
I figured it would be everyone would be cremated.
No. My buddy told me. He said that he felt that it was a disservice not to let the people have a final look at their loved one. You know, he thought it was a disservice. So my brother, the same way back in St. Louis, he's doing the same thing. You know, he's allowing them to have a final view of their loved ones because his embalmers are, they're protecting themselves. You know, they have a lot of the PPE and everything. They wear the mask and everything. They face guards and everything. But the blood just goes right down the drain. Right down the drain. They pour bleach down the drain behind it, but I don't know if that's going to make any difference. It's just all the blood's going straight down the drain. Always has been. That's always been the. I thought everybody knew that.
No, it shocks me. I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's all it does. They don't. The only thing they do, anything they contain is like all of the material, like or anything they take off you, like clothes or anything they take off of you. They bag that up into a.
So they bag up the clothing. They drain the blood.
They bag up anything like that. Yeah, they bag that all up. They put it in a medical waste bag. It's a special pickup. They don't put it in the regular trash. Any of that stuff, they definitely put it to medical. Because a lot of times they cut off the. Sometimes at the hospitals, or you come from the morgue or something, sometimes still have tubes and all that stuff, and you still have to pull all those things out, and they put that into a medical waste bag, and then the medical waste people
also,
come and they pick that up.
The hospital sometimes doesn't detube the dead body before they ship it to the morgue?
Sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you still have tubes and stuff in you.
Wow.
Depends. Depends on what hospital I guess you go to.
Do the morgues or the mortuaries, do they like pump out the colon, the lower intestine, or no?
No. The only thing we do is it's just the arteries. We hit the arteries. Sometimes if there's a blood clot, then they have to go into the femoral artery in the leg, and maybe go in there and go in from that direction, or up underneath the arm, They may go into those spots wherever the arteries are, But basically, it's right there at your collarbone. They make that incision there and grab the carotid and the jugular vein, and they go from there.
Wow.
And then that's the embalming process, And then they disinfect the body too. They have to disinfect it, prepare it, things of that nature. Then it sits for a while so that the embalming fluid, because the embalming fluid turns into a gas. It doesn't stay liquid. It turns into a gas ultimately. And that's what it does sometimes. Because when you die, one of the first things happen is that liver mortis.
Right.
And liver mortis, it starts to rot all of your other organs, So you want to really get them as quick as possible. And all those COVID cases, you want to really get them and you really get them embalmed, because a lot of funeral homes won't do anything. They'll just cremate those bodies. So a lot of funeral homes, you're right, they won't touch them, because they just. Some of the embalmers have underlying diseases too. Some of them got kidney problems and diabetes and different things like that. So a lot of them drink and smoke, different things like that, you don't want to, mix that with that, because I know they say people who smoke, and are a lot susceptible to COVID than people who don't smoke, So, I mean, a lot of those guys, they don't take care of themselves either, so that's why they're very afraid of any COVID cases, some are not, So the guys that I deal with, they're not afraid of it. They just go ahead and do what they need to do, and let the family see the body again, for the last time. I know in Muslim Islamic and mostly Orthodox Jewish, they don't do any embalming. They just bury their loved one.
Yeah, we usually bury within 24 hours.
Yeah, before sun. If you die at sun up, you got to be buried before sundown.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know the procedure. Yeah, very strict. Which I understand. I definitely understand it. Because under the Mosaic law, it has to be done that way. I talk to rabbis who do that kind of business, who are in the funeral business. Very nice guys. They do it how they do it. They wash the body, and then they wrap it, and then they take it straight to the cemetery. Because we have a lot of Jewish cemeteries here in New Jersey. Where I'm from, in Missouri, actually, it used to be a big Hasidic town. It's called University City, Missouri. It used to be a big Hasidic.
Missouri? I didn't know.
Place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It used to be a big. When I was a kid growing up, there was a lot of Jewish people there. But now I don't think so anymore. The Asians kind of took it over. My old town, where it's in St. Louis County. I haven't lived there in 36 years, almost 37 years. I'm kind of lost touch with it. I've been living in New Jersey most of my life, so, and plus I raised all my children here, so that's one of my biggest things, But yeah, so I mean, I've kind of did a little bit of everything in my life, like Cottrell, that's why I'm kind of interested in everything. Well, the COVID, like I said, getting back to COVID, it's mystified me. I have to say that. And when I heard you, I think I heard you on either on Doug Hagman or something like that. I heard you, and then I listened to you. I said, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about. I said, I'd really like to talk to him, And then you made it accessible. Now, why did you name your setup Reykjavik? Isn't Reykjavik in Iceland?
Yeah. Well, there's two reasons. So the first reason is that I started when I moved to New York, I was 100% just dealing with finance, managing portfolios, corporate finance. I was working,
you're a finance
so
guy.
I was a finance guy at first. Well, first I was automotive engineer, and then I moved to New York. I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. So I was an automotive engineer, and then I finished my MBA in finance and moved to New York when the Lehman crash happened. So I finished my MBA in 2008 and then moved to New York. And I wanted to go into managing portfolios and trading and all that. And then during that time, I was so interested in it, I decided to get a PhD in finance. So I moved to New York, and when I was doing the prop trading, doing my professional trading, I had to set up a company, and I figured, well, I'm going to be doing economic commentary, financial commentary, and all this, so I'll just call it Reykjavik, the Studio Reykjavik, meaning that it's the Lehman crash started in Reykjavik. The defaults, the defaults start there, and then it started to hurt other banks around the world, and eventually the collapse of Lehman. So there's a documentary about the whole Lehman crash, and it talks about how there were so many commercial and real estate loans happening in Reykjavik, and one of the main banks there was so exposed to the real estate market that they failed, and they were the contagion point to these other banks in the United States and in London. So, because I was primarily finance guy at the time, I figured, well, might as well start, because I was studying chaos theory and complex systems and all this. So I figured, well, might as well start where did it all begin with the whole Lehman crisis?
Yeah.
What was the first
What year
domino to
was
fall?
that Lehman thing happened? What year was
Well,
that?
it started echoing with certain. If you say when did it start, it technically starts in 2006, where you start hearing
Right.
some subprime people defaulting because of job losses. In the United States, it was, remember in 2006, when they were talking about the one state recession, when they were running for the primary, when Obama
Right.
was running
I
the
do
primary.
remember.
Yeah, and he said, "Oh, Michigan, the one state recession, we'll bring you back," and all this. Well, that was the beginning of the subprime, because what was happening is that the automotive industry was having problems, so they were starting to lay off workers. So the state was somewhat in a recession, but everyone else was not. But around the world, there was something similar happening, and it was just subprime borrowers, but there was some big defaults from banks, and the first one to go down was in Reykjavik, and or have a default issue, and that created such a cascade effect. So there was already some system stress back in 2006, and it just kept on building and building and building through 2007, and then in 2008, that's when you actually had the failure.
Right.
What
The
we would call
bubble. They call it the bubble.
Yeah.
The bubble burst.
Yeah.
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 Now, let me say this to you. I was in real estate at that time. I was working for Better Homes, actually, at that time. And we were doing all these subprime loans, giving these people these LIBOR loans. And I thought about it for a while. I said, why would we give a regular guy a LIBOR loan? I said, why would we set him up in a LIBOR loan where it's interest only? I said, those loans are for businesses and guys who have seasonal businesses. Let's say like an ice cream parlor.
Mm-hmm.
A guy would have an ice cream parlor. He would make a lot of money doing his season, his season maybe from May until September or something like that, or maybe even later October. But from October until next May, he may have almost no money. So he would make the basic payments, the only interest only payments, and then when his business gets better, picks back up, then he would make bigger payments. That's what I thought the LIBOR loans were for. But we were giving it to immigrants. Immigrants were getting involved with that, and then they were defaulting on They defaulted on almost every single loan down here in New Jersey. Every single loan. They defaulted, and I was like, why would we even why would we even set them up in those type of loans? And I couldn't understand. These guys were coming in with $50,000, $75,000 down payments. They were buying houses that they couldn't afford. The mortgages were $5,000, $6,000 a month. And I was like, how are they going to pay this? And then they started to defaulting. And then, like you said, it started right about 2006. And then from there in 2008, we had nothing but tons of houses
Mm-hmm.
that had failed. And now my ex-wife, she started doing, I think right about 2010 and 11, she started doing those what kind of loans were they? I forget what you call them, where you lose on the sale, short sales. Short sales.
Yeah.
She started doing the short sales, and because I had left and we had divorced, and I had went to Hawaii, and then from there I went to the Middle East, and that was the situation. But I was right in the middle of that debacle,
Mm-hmm.
and so I remember being in real estate. I was a real estate agent at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew, and I dealt with a lot of the loan guys, and they were giving out loans like it was, tickets at a carnival.
Yeah, because they were it was just a package, and you didn't have to carry the risk.
Right.
And it just was, it was just a mortgage-backed security that just went on the market, and they figured that you could just pass on the risk and won't have any problem. But the risk kept on building and building and building, and then it just blew up.
I thought that was outrageous. outrageous, though. And a lot of these guys lost. I feel bad for them because there were a lot of guys who were tricking each other. You know, there were guys who tried to get both ends of it. They were the mortgage broker and they were the real estate agent. They would get 6% on the sale of the house plus another 6% on the back end of the mortgage. You know, and I was like, that's illegal in New Jersey. Now, I don't know what it is in New York, but I know in New Jersey that's illegal. You can't do that. But there were guys who were doing it to their own people. You know, not the foreigners, and they were doing it. And one guy wouldn't deal with him at all because he did that. You know, and me and him got into a big argument at my office, at my real estate office, and my boss got kind of mad at me. But I said, listen, this guy is a snake. I said, look what he tried to do. You know. And the property that he was trying to buy was my best friend's property that I was selling for him. And I was like, no, I wasn't going to get him in that debacle. No way. I said, no, I'm going to get a legitimate person to buy, this property. I'm always a legit guy, man. I really don't play any games like that when it comes to stuff like that. You know, I kind of miss real estate because real estate was really good. You know, I have become really good at it, but I kind of, because of my marriage situation, kind of threw me off. So, But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, I do understand what you were talking about. That's some serious stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, Dr. Cottrell, I've done so many things in my life, my little 56 years of living, that it's only because you brought it up, I kind of spoke on it. I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I don't know. I'm kind of the jack of all trades, but the master of none, as they say.
Yeah. Well, the second reason why I named it Reykjavik was living in Lower Manhattan. It is so cold in the winter. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so cold. People have no idea how cold it is at the tip of the.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I used to
because you're getting
almost every day.
Because you got that wind that's coming off of the east and the East River and the Hudson, and it just because the buildings are so close together, there's this wind effect between the buildings, the Venturi effect.
And when you were working, who were you working in Lower Manhattan?
Yeah.
Where were you at?
No, I was living in Lower Manhattan, and I was
you were living there. Okay.
I was living in Lower Manhattan. I was working in Midtown.
Oh, you're working in Midtown. Wow. Yeah, so you definitely had to deal with it all. Man, that must have been expensive too, Dr. Cottrell. Living in oh my God. Because some of those rents are like $3,000 or $4,000 a month for just a one bedroom.
It's higher than that.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's like close.
This is way back,
It's closer to $5,000.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure now because because you can't get a rat's nest in New York under like I would say between three and 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right now. Because believe me, it's expensive to live in the city.
Oh,
I wouldn't want to live in the city.
Yeah.
Even here, it's expensive now.
No, I'm still in the city, but the thing is.
Are you married, Dr. Cottrell?
No.
Oh.
But what I am what was I gonna say? I'm still living in the city, but the thing is, once I finish residency, I don't know where I'm gonna be. So I'm gonna just finish medical school. I'm just going to finish medical school and then I'll just figure out because with residency you don't know where you're going to place. See, people don't understand. It's not like just go live somewhere and just be a doctor. You got to go through residency and they tell you where you match. You don't even know your specialty. You have to rank your specialties. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to be a cardiologist. Well, it doesn't work that way. First, you have, first you have to be internal medicine for 3 years, and then you do like a 2 or 3 year fellowship in cardiology.
Right.
Or let's say I want to go into surgery, but I want to go into cardiothoracic surgery. So I can't do that. I have to first do general surgery for 5 years and do a fellowship for 2 years in CT. So I don't know where I'm going to end up in the United States where that allows me to do my training for my residency in general surgery. And then I don't know, after I do the 5 years, I don't know where I end up for the fellowship. Then after I'm done with that, then I can go anywhere I want.
Right.
So
okay.
for 4 years.
NYC?
So
where are you going to school at in New York?
No, I don't want to say, because I have people that are like that.
Oh no.
That
okay.
are,
I'm sorry.
I try to, the personal stuff I try to keep quiet, because
yes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't even want. I'm glad you said that. I'm sorry.
But
I didn't want to say that.
You know, because I have people that are trolling me, and I've been threatened. I've been threatened. You know, so and I just like I want to be a little bit more private. Yeah.
Right.
So
because you have a right to have your personal, your personal space and stuff like that. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you? I remember you said something about your brother passing away. What was that all about?
He died from a heart attack.
And you said you kind of went in the medical field because of that.
Yeah. He died from a heart attack. So what it is on my mom's side, the males die usually between age 35 to 46. Yeah, but the thing is that it's part genetic and part environmental. So if you fall in the risk category, then you have a very high chance of dying, or at least you need the bypass. So the only ones that survived were ones that had the stent or had the triple bypass. But anyone that didn't, they don't survive. So
they don't survive.
Yeah. So my brother had the problem.
How old was he?
He died at 36.
36. Oh wow, he was such a young man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna tell you a story. My brother died too, but he was much younger, and it was from a different situation. My brother was kidnapped and murdered when I was back in 1971. And you probably weren't even born yet. Were you born yet?
I was born in 72.
72. So you were born next year. Anyway, my brother died. My brother was kidnapped and from school, and he was murdered. And nobody, and it's been 49 years this year, December. They never found out who killed him. Never. I met the gentleman. He's still alive. He's 100 years old. He's 101. Who found him? Who found him on the ground. He thought it was one of those little, baby dolls. The ones, the kind of the life-size baby dolls. He thought that's what it was when he saw him on the ground. And he told me, he said he kicked at it, and he said, "Oh my God!" He said, "This is that baby that they were looking for." Wow. And he screamed out to his friend, who's dead now, and he told me what happened. I finally heard the story after all these years about my brother. What happened to him. He was only 6 years old, and we never found out who killed him, who murdered him. But that was a strange story. I know what it's like to lose a loved one, and it's pretty harrowing. It's hard, to lose a loved one, whether it be from heart failure or for what happened to my brother being murdered like that, and then plus never finding out what happened to him, I always felt that they didn't care because a little black boy from St. Louis, Missouri, back in those days, they couldn't care less. I really felt like that because they did kind of close the case after a month or two after.
I lost a little bit of your audio.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, the FBI got involved in it, and they said, we're not sure. They just made a bunch of speculations, but they never came up with any answers. So it's an unsolved murder for almost 50 years. So I know, I just want to say that to you because we were talking about kind of like a lot of conspiracies. My life has been kind of a fun life, for a person, who doesn't have all the education that you have. You have a lot of education. I really don't. I just graduated from high school, and I went into the military, and I got a chance to do a lot of things that a lot of people haven't been able to. I would always just refer myself to being blessed by God. I say God just blessed me. That's all. That's all I can actually say. I can't say anything else, because a lot of people have never got a chance to travel the world like I have, As a missionary, I was a missionary too as well. I got to travel to Haiti and to England and to the Philippines and to a lot of different countries I've been, deeper into Mexico, to some remote places in Mexico where a lot of people have never been before. Things like that, I enjoyed it. I and we had a lot of good things to happen. I remember watching the guy, he's dead now, Bourdon, where he kind of went to a lot of different countries and, did a lot of things there, I thought about my life. I said, man, I did kind of like him, I kind of traveled, on, didn't spend a dime actually either. I never paid for any of those things,
That's cool.
By the grace of God, I got a chance to go, actually. And I'll tell you, I would always encourage people to be able to travel the world, to get to travel, to be able to go places. It expands your thinking, Because I can sit here and talk with you, even though your education is way beyond mine, but still in all, I can converse with you because of my experience. My experience in life is it kind of gives me the bachelor's degree and the master's degree.
Oh,
and the
absolutely,
PhD.
absolutely. Experience is a huge part of one's education. I think experience is more important than let's say formal education, because experience gives you the actual doing, not just the reading, not just the regurgitating.
Yeah.
Experience is a really important part of life and understanding things.
Oh, I'm telling you.
That's why residency is so important. Medical school is hard, and it prepares you for the test. You don't really become a doctor until you're in residency, when you start learning medicine. You're just like, you're studying medicine for 4 years for a test, but then once you're in residency, you're actually learning medicine. Because you're doing.
You're actually physically being in the hospital and being with patients and different things.
And trying to figure the problem out, because there's no easy solution manual you can I can't just let's say you came to me and you had some medical problem. There's not like a book on a shelf that I look up and go, Pastor Hale's chronic problem, look at page 2, and there's the answer. You know what I mean? So that's right. So you have to think on your feet, and that's where residency comes in. So you really become a true doctor in residency.
My mother was a nurse back in 1959, 60, somewhere around that time.
Yeah.
And I'm a historian. I noticed that from 1900 until 1959, medicine in the United States was basically naturopathic and homeopathic. But from 1960 to today, it became allopathic, very allopathic. There may have been sprinkles of allopathic medicine.
Well, there was that's where you have the big pharma starts to get much larger.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, my father was in pharmaceutical sales. He retired from AstraZeneca, and I could see he started in the 70s in pharmaceutical sales, late 70s. He was first a chemistry teacher, but then he goes into pharmaceutical sales because teaching didn't really pay back in the 70s, and people don't realize that back then there was a lot of picketing going on, a lot of strikes. And if you were low on the totem pole, you didn't get, you were hurting. And he had he had 3 kids at the time and all that. So he decided to get out of teaching and then go into pharmaceutical sales. And most of those companies, they were really small companies, but there was just huge mergers in the 80s. There was a big wave of mergers, and these pharmaceutical companies started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So he was in ophthalmology sales. But eventually, companies were buying out other companies. He eventually gets acquired and starts working for AstraZeneca. First it was Zeneca, and then Zeneca buys Astra or something like that. But either way, he retires, and he actually ends up selling cardiac medicine, which is ironic.
Like warfarin and all that stuff, warfarin and Eliquis and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's more blood. That's more blood
Well,
thinner. But
well, whatever AstraZeneca was selling at the time, I don't remember what they were selling, what he was
right.
pushing at the time. Whatever their
Bayer is a big company. Bayer and Monsanto used to be big in St. Louis too.
So there was this just huge. I guess the point is that there's this huge there was this plethora of new pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
And then there was these mergers and acquisitions, and these companies just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they started advertising more, and then they started having more lobbying power. They started able to, they started sending grants to medical schools and starting to have promotional material. Training these doctors have an idea of pharmacology, but the new drugs, the doctors don't have time to really understand or what the new drugs are, so they depend on the salesperson to come in and tell them what's new on the market.
Right.
So they're basically pushing. They're just they're basically pushing the allopathic thing, because where's the incentive for someone to push that birch bark helps you? But there's an incentive. There's the sales guy that's pushing Crestor. So I mean, so there's no, so that there's this kind of like big sales push to promote big pharma. It's an industry, and you also see it in the vaccine programs. There's this big push for it.
All these big companies. What I don't understand is like Crestor. Now, when I talk to a naturopathic doctor, they say that the numbers for your cholesterol are not true. That your cholesterol doesn't have to be that low.
I agree with it. I agree with them. If anything, if you have too low of a cholesterol, that you might be causing neurological damage. That's what some people say. Endocrine problems, and because your hormones are all based on cholesterol. The base molecule is cholesterol. So if you have low cholesterol, you're going to have a low hormonal issue. You're going to have hormonal production problems.
And that's the thing that happened to me, I think, because I remember I was on some kind of a cholesterol drug, and I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't Crestor. It was something else. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, they gave it to me. They said, "Oh, your cholesterol is too high," and this and that, and I think that's one of the things that kind of did something to me. And even because I'm a veteran and I go to the VA, they're always talking about, well, your cholesterol has to be this and has to be that, and now I don't even really eat a lot of things with cholesterol in it, so I'm kind of leery, of anything like that, of anything that's with high cholesterol. But now I'm starting to find out, through naturopathic medicine, which I'm really into. I'm really into naturopathic medicine. I believe that people should have a choice, Dr. Cottrell. You don't have a choice. If you have insurance, no matter what it is, whether it's Medicare or whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, I don't care if it's Lords of London, you can't go to a naturopath with your insurance. You can't. And to me, that's not right. You should be able to go to whichever doctor you want to go to, but it's only allopathic. And I had my doctor one time, he told me, when I told him about noni juice, and he said, "Oh, I can't, what did he say? I can't validate that." And then after I pressed him, he said, "Yeah, because what happened, I was diabetic, and so as I started drinking the noni juice, it started to bring my blood sugar down, way down, where I got off of insulin." And he was saying he couldn't understand. He said, "Well, I mean, it's good that your blood sugars went down." He said, "But I can't endorse it." That was the word he used, because he was endorsing what's it called? Metoprolol? No, not metoprolol.
Metformin.
What is it?
Metformin. Yeah.
Metformin, and the other I can't think of the other insulin. He was involved with the pharmaceutical companies, like you were just saying. A lot of doctors are involved with the pharmaceutical companies, and they get kickbacks. They get quite a bit of money from the pharmaceuticals, Their practice is not just enough. Because our doctors live nice lives. I mean, very nice lives. They live very nice. I'm sure Dr. Oz lives very nice. He lives a very nice
Yeah,
life.
but the reason why he's doing a nice life is because he's a TV star. Not all doctors are TV stars, but I mean, maybe I'll be a TV star.
Doctors.
Do you think I'll be a TV star, doctor? Do you think I'll be able to be a TV star, doctor?
Sure. Yeah, sure you will be. But see, you're kind of a straightforward kind of guy. You're going to tell you the truth. You're not going to lie to anybody. You're going to say, you're going to tell just like you've been doing all along. And I pray that you stay the same way. You just stay the same way. Don't allow them to try to make you say something that isn't true, just for money. You say, listen, you're paying me to be a doctor. If I'm a doctor, I have an oath that I have to live up to that Hippocratic oath.
Exactly.
And I'm definitely not going to lie.
Some people can say, this is how a doctor should handle this whole homeopathic issue with the allopathic. They can say, you know what, there are research studies here that show that it seems to work, all right? But they may not be a double-blinded study, okay? Here's a double-blinded study that says that this drug that was made by XYZ lowers your cholesterol, or let's say it's an insulin issue. So let's say that it will help with your diabetes, and it had a control, all right, and it was statistically significant to lower it. But the doctor could say, I have patients that are using these things, and the data that I'm seeing in my practice is showing that their need for insulin is reduced by 25%. That's you could by stating in my practice XYZ I see. There is nothing wrong with that. That's completely legal. That's completely legal.
Yeah.
But you're also making the statement that because there's that incentive. Who has the incentive to promote vitamin C? You know what I mean?
No.
Right. But there is a huge incentive for these companies to say, oh, here's a drug because you're here's a drug that helps with a certain disease that's associated with vitamin C deficiency. They'll wait for you to have the disease and they'll come up and give you the drug instead of giving you the key vitamin that you needed to prevent the disease from starting.
Stuff, Dr. Cottrell. I'm not taking none of that. I told him, I said, listen, I tell them all the time, the doctor all the time, I say, don't even try to prescribe me any of that. I said, if it's not all natural, I said, you can forget it. And they said, well, what the hell, this is going to help you. I said, no, it's not. They told me I had a thyroid problem one time. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to the natural store.
Did you get iodine?
Find something.
Did you do iodine and filtered water, or how did you handle the thyroid issue?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it came from, but it's gone now.
No, but how did you handle it? How did you handle it?
You know what I do? I eat a lot of, I do a lot of natural, a lot of natural fruits and vegetables, and I take natural supplements. I take like fish oil and I drink clean water and different stuff like that. I don't drink soda. I don't drink different. I don't drink anything that's chemical based. I drink all natural. Anything I deal with is all natural. And I get away from anything that I feel that has some kind of a side effect. So that's the way I get away from all that stuff. And I just and I don't have any problems with it anymore. Also, I pray over it as well. I always pray. That's one of my number one things as a Christian. I always pray and ask God to help me because He's the only one who knows. I did leave you a message, and I know what the message is now. The message was, I wanted you to look at the life of Dr. George Washington Carver. I want you to look at his life. You've heard of him before, right?
Yeah.
He was a great scientist.
Yeah,
You know.
he's the guy that discovered all the uses with peanuts.
Yeah. Not only that, it was like many more other things. He did so many other things. Henry Ford wanted him to was going to pay him $1 million to make him the fuel for his engine.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Oh, you didn't know that? Okay, no. Well, I'll tell you what. You got to go online when you got time. I know you're very busy. Go online and just listen to the autobiography of Dr. George Washington Carver, and listen to all of the things that he invented. Jimmy Carter, our ex-president, had a cotton farm in Georgia.
So he's very similar to like Thomas Edison.
Huh?
He's very similar to Edison.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. He's very, very similar to Edison, and Tesla too.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla. But I think Tesla was greater than Edison.
Yeah, I think
in
so
every
too.
way.
Yeah, I think so.
But back to Dr. George Washington Carver, he told Jimmy Carter and his parents that the weevils have killed all your cotton. You got to plant peanuts. So Jimmy Carter, if you ever listen to Jimmy Carter's testimony, he'll tell you he knew Dr. George Washington Carver. You know, when he was a boy growing up. You know, and he knew it. And because Dr. Carver died in 1945, right after the war.
43.
He died.
He died in 43.
Yeah, maybe it was 43. He died. It was in the 40s.
Yeah.
He died. You know, and he was great, man. Henry Ford wanted him, man, so bad. I mean, everybody wanted to know how he knew all of those things. And I can tell you, it was through prayer. He said he always asked God. He said, God, you made all these things. How did they work? And I'm telling you, Dr. Cottrell, when you look into those things, I promise you, you'll be one of the greatest doctors in the world. If you listen to his testimony, you look at his life, and you follow the things that he did, I won't even know you anymore because you'd be like super doctor, Dr. Paul Cottrell. Everybody would be running to you. How did you know that? How did you find out this? We've been searching this for years. Oh man, we looked at what's his name? Doctor, what's his name? Francis Bacon and all these other great doctors. What was the guy's name who invented Newton? Newton. You know, even though he invented the mathematics, but he was a great medical guy too. Sir Isaac Newton. You know. It's funny about his life too. If you know about Sir Isaac Newton, he was a Christian, but some guys in Israel have all his paperwork, his secret writings that he had.
Well, he died. He believed that there was a mathematical principle within the 5 books of Moses.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, and he was trying to find the mathematical principle.
Yeah, he was.
That he thought that there was some sort of mathematical geometrical function within the building of the temple.
Yeah, he tried to figure. I don't know. They hid those writings. It's a rich guy in Israel that has those writings. He bought them for quite a bit of money, and he won't give them to anybody. He won't let anybody see them. You know, so I just wonder. You know, I would like to know what they are. I mean, you know, because I'm just this inquisitive type of guy. I want to know. You know, what, because I've heard a lot of good things about Sir Isaac Newton. You know, his whole life. You know, he was a recluse basically.
Right.
You know.
Right.
You know, as a
well,
person,
he would. Some people think that he actually was hypoglycemic because he would pass out. He wouldn't be eating, and then he would be passing out.
Yeah, he might have been. You know, that's something. Wow, I didn't really realize that because he did. I remember, you know, listening to his story. I'm always, you know, Dr. Cottrell, I'm very interested in things like that. I've always been an inquisitive kid. You know, growing up, you know, I've always wanted to learn. You know, but I never had the money to go to school and to learn like you have. You know, not to I don't belittle myself because of that. I just didn't have it. You know, I just didn't have the finances at the time to go to school and to do the things that I wanted to do. You know,
right.
I always had some issue, you know, in my life that hindered me. So I thank God for all the things that's happened now. And I enjoy my life, and even at this end of my life now, I enjoy, what God is doing in my life because it's a blessing, I live alone by myself, and I have my own apartment, and I don't fear, being by myself just because I'm blind, and I'm really blind. I can't see anything at all, nothing. I can see actually nothing. So, but at the same token, I still can take care of myself. I know where my clothes are. I can cook. It's like this morning I got up, cooked me some beef bacon. I love beef bacon. It's good. It's hard to find, but it's good. I had to go to an Arabic. I had to get my aide to go to an Arabic place to get it because you can't get it in the regular stores. Nobody has sliced beef bacon. I can't find it. Do you eat kosher? You eat kosher?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kosher.
Oh, yeah. You're strictly kosher. Yeah, that's why I just wondered.
Yeah.
I like a lot of kosher food too. It's good. I mean, there used to be a lot of kosher butchers and little delis that used to be here in my area. So I live in a place called Long Branch. If you look it up on the map, you see, and there's a West Long Branch and Long Branch. It's pretty, and it's Elberon, that's mostly Jewish, and then Deal is a Jewish, but these are mostly Syrian Jews. They're really rich people, really, really, really rich guys, and they got a lot of money. You should see those houses, man. Woof. And they all live in New York. They're not here during the winter time. Mostly in the summer, everybody comes, down this way. They come from New York, and then now with this new building they built in Long Branch, Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, he built this big, fantabulous place here in Long Branch now. It's going to be real swanky coming up here soon in the next couple of years. He's building all this stuff down here too. A lot of stuff going on in my area. If you look at Long Branch, you'll see it's very progressive. This little city. It's a small city, small little beach town, but it's pretty progressive. If you ever look it up, if you don't decide to come down this way, let me know. I'm always here.
Okay.
Cool. I definitely love to meet you, and we could talk, man. We could go out after this is all over. Preferably there's a lot of nice restaurants. You can sit down and talk. Talk face to face.
Right.
I can't see you, but you can see me.
Cool.
You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh about. Sometimes you gotta laugh about your infirmities.
That's
can't let it take you down.
Well, I mean, we should be getting out of shelter in place probably at the end of this month, I think.
Yeah, I think. Well, the governor of my state said somewhere in June, first part.
Oh,
of June.
really? That long? Wow.
Yeah, he did. He said, because he's very leery about everything because we still have a lot of deaths here. Just like New York. Have a lot of deaths still. And it's kind of annoying though because everything closes at 8 o'clock. Sometimes you may get hungry. Somewhere around that time, and now you can't order anything. So you're just like, oh brother, you have to wait till the next day.
Well, it's like U.S. has almost 1.3 million confirmed cases. All right, and the state of New York has 330,000 cases confirmed. But New York City has how many? Hold on. I mean, these numbers are getting kind of big here. U.S. deaths are 77,000, and in New York City we have almost 182,000 cases confirmed, and 19,500 cases that have died.
Good Lord. That is crazy.
I know. 19,000,
Yeah,
20,000. I mean, think about it. Like 77,000. That's more than Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean that's so outrageous. I mean, the thought of that. All those precious people are gone.
Mm-hmm. And in 2.5, and they died in 2.5 months. I mean, it's such a short amount of time. People don't understand it. It's not just the number. It's how quick it has been.
Right. And and nobody can account for the deaths. I mean, it's like, my God, come on. All those people just died, like, and so many, so many moms and so many. But the thing I don't like too, though, Dr. Cottrell, this other conspiracy is that people are dying of different other things, and then they put on the death certificate COVID, and I don't believe that all of them are all COVID.
No,
Yes.
but the reason why they're doing that is one reason is that the hospitals are losing a lot of money from not being
Right.
able to do secondary, procedures, non-essential procedures. So these hospitals are losing a ton of money. So they get special aid if it's a COVID situation. So that's one problem.
Right.
So they have an incentive to boost up the numbers from that. The other is the states are hoping they'll get more federal aid if they show higher numbers in their state
Of
of COVID cases, right? Then the third problem is, well, there's comorbidities, and if someone was probably going to live for 3 more years with their comorbidity, but COVID-19, they get COVID-19 disease, and speeds up their death. Did they die from COVID-19, or did they die from accelerated, let's say, heart disease or whatever?
Right.
If they are a confirmed case of COVID-19 and they have a comorbidity, I would classify it as a COVID-19 case. If they don't test positive for COVID-19, and then let's say they had a heart attack, then that's obviously they died from a heart attack, not from COVID-19. The problem comes in is like, you've heard cases where there's a car accident and the person's dead, but they happen to test positive for COVID-19 and they write it for COVID-19. No, they died from a car accident. So it depends on the case. But there is this incentive to boost up the numbers for different reasons. But if it's accelerating the death of someone that already has a disease, I would write it as a COVID-19 disease, because they probably would have lived a little bit longer if they didn't have COVID-19.
Right.
But that's the whole point, is that most people are not going to die from COVID-19 disease. They're going to die from the complications of COVID-19.
Right.
That's why the comorbidity issue.
Down,
Yeah, that's
down,
why
right.
that's why the comorbidity issue is such a big problem, because it just accelerates the process. I mean, if you have lung problems, already, and then you get COVID-19, it's going to be a lot harder to fight it. And so,
That's right.
so someone like my mother has COPD. If she gets COVID-19, she probably will die. Well, on her death certificate, it should say death from COVID-19.
How old is your mother?
74, I think. I think she's 74.
Okay. Is your dad still living too?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
He's doing okay.
My on the train.
My father's doing okay, but my her health is terrible. It's terrible.
Did she smoke at one time in her life?
She still smokes. She's been smoking for 40 years. So she has COPD. She's epileptic. She is diabetic. She has heart disease. She has all the problems.
And you probably can't tell her anything either, can you?
I've tried it. The weird thing is, when I, with knowing all the stuff I publish, on the internet, I have no problem convincing my mother about how dangerous this problem is. But my father, he's like living in he's not taking things seriously. He's like the type that he doesn't
really
take.
Doesn't believe that this is real.
No, he thinks it's real, but he doesn't think he thinks it's real, but it doesn't register until it's right in his face. That's a problem. He doesn't really understand the severity of the problem until he actually sees it. And I just like it's. I was surprised. Trying to convince my father is a chore. He's starting, once they started, not having bread in the stores, and not having milk in the stores, then he started waking up to what I was telling him. Because I was telling him
Yeah.
way in advance to start prepping, way in advance, early in February, and he didn't do it because he didn't believe what I was saying. And then once he started seeing that the food the food shortages started in Michigan, then he started believing me.
Yeah, so that I tell you, this is I tell you, this is gonna be, boy, this is crazy. This whole setup is crazy. In my whole life, and I'm sure in your parents' life as well, they've never seen anything like this.
Oh,
this is
no.
a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, this is a combination of the Great Depression, the Spanish flu of 1918, and the Lehman crash, all at the same time.
God in heaven. I mean, that's just crazy.
I mean, it's just like it's so, and maybe this leads to a world war with China. This might be the beginnings of World War III.
I know, and that's what it seems like to me. I feel like the Chinese are our enemy. I got friends who say, like Michael Savage said the other day, he didn't believe that the Chinese did it on purpose. I do. I believe they did it on purpose. I do believe they did it on purpose. I believe Xi Jinping is a wicked devil. I mean, really, come on. I mean, listen, the Chinese got more gangs and syndicates everywhere I go. Before I left Kuwait, the Chinese were coming into Kuwait. They were setting up all kinds of prostitution syndicates, and all kinds of stuff was going on. Everywhere the Chinese go, if they can go someplace and they can be autonomous, then they would set up all kinds of criminal activity. They're notorious for that. Notorious for that kind of thing. I had all the people saying, "Oh, the Chinese are great businessmen." I said, "Sure they are. Sure they are. Where they can set up some kind of criminal activity where they can make all kinds of money in the way they shouldn't be able to make the money. They sell more. They bring more drugs, more anchor babies, and all kinds of stuff in the country. I don't know if you heard this. They were bringing females into America in those containers I was telling you about. Putting those girls, like 10 girls into one of those containers. Put like a toilet stool in there with toilet paper, and they sent them over here. Some of them died. Some other ones were very super sick, but all of them were pregnant, just so they could have babies here in America, because they knew they weren't going to send them back. And I'm saying, like, why in the devil would you do something like that? That doesn't even make any sense. We got tons of Chinese students that come here, and tons of Chinese people who do come here to live. They own thousands and thousands of acres of farmland in America. They own almost all of they own a big percentage of the meat packing companies in America, including Smithfield, which I didn't know they owned. They own it. It's been exposed that one of Mao Zedong's foot soldiers owns Smithfield. One of the guys who worked for him years ago. He was a young guy then, but he's an old man now. And I'm saying, like, what? I'm like, how does America allow? There's no country in the world that you can go in the country and buy property and things like that without having one of the native people from that country being a part of that sale. Like in Kuwait, if you buy a piece of property, the Kuwaiti who in business with you they have 51% and you have 49%. If you go to the Philippines, you have to be married to a Filipina, or if you're a female, married to a Filipino man, and then you can buy some property in the Philippines. Most countries I've ever been to, Americans can't just walk up there and buy, but America allows anybody to come in here and buy property. They had a fit back in the late 90s and early 2000s, because all the Indians came into Edison, New Jersey, and bought up all the property. Because now it's mostly Indians. Now, like 90% Indians live in Edison, New Jersey. They had a fit. They had a fit about that. And so that was one of the big things, I think that America shouldn't do. It shouldn't allow people to be able to buy property like that, and then wonder why we having problems with our enemy, because we let them walk right in. I'm just saying, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we better cut this off, and you know,
Well,
I hope it was worthwhile.
No, it is. It is. You know, thank you for calling, and I'll package this up and put it on the channel. And
okay.
you know, please.
I'm gonna listen to it. See if I was.
You're fine. Don't worry about it. But you know, please call back and come back on the channel and we'll talk some more.
Oh
about
yeah, I
what you
will,
think is
and I'll bring back some more information that I have. I don't think I could think of all of it today. Today I had my mind was on something else, because I had some pain in my legs because I did tell you I was on dialysis. I'm on dialysis, so
You're going in like
Monday,
once
Wednesday.
a week? Oh no, you do multiple days a week?
Yeah, 3 days. I go 3 days a week. 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 3 hours and 15 minutes. I'm on the machine, and sometimes it messes with your circulation.
Right.
So that's why I take the fish oil and stuff like that. And if I find I'm into I'm trying to get some. I'm into this stuff called noni juice. Noni juice is good. It's a plant that comes from Tahiti, and it's known for its healing properties. You can look it up. It's called Tahitian noni juice. It's got blueberry juice and plus the noni plant. They mix it together, and it makes a nice combination. It makes you less acidic. It brings you more into alkaline. You become more alkaline.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it. Yeah, you can look that up. But anyway, Dr. Cottrell, God bless you, sir.
Okay.
You have a great day.
You too. Thank you for calling. Bye-bye.
All right.